People who don't want to work, why?
It's not that I don't want to work. I want to work less, like max 30 to 32 hours, and be compensated well enough where I can put my bills on autopay. Work isn't the issue, it's how much we have to work to live, and I make well above minimum wage. But it is still a struggle to make ends meet.
I don't want to work for someone else. I don't want to work for rotten wages. I don't want to work weekends or nights. I don't want to work with jerks. I don't want to work where it damages my body. I don't want to work where it damages my soul. One who does. Obvious and lazy answer. 2 people got sick of being treated like crap in retail and in restaurants. I've been out to dinner with people who are rude to the waiter, who have told me in the past, nobody wants to work. I wonder why. If I could do whatever I want and still live, I would be constantly working on new, useful skills and trying to help my community more. I would want to learn how to build houses, make clothes, grow food, and I genuinely love helping people, teaching, and making people happy. But all of those things are not easy when I have to eat and pay bills. It's all hobby stuff, which means I have zero time for it. My day job and its support is fine. I do actually enjoy working on computers and helping people. But I spend a lot of time in the office just sitting around waiting for tickets, and I could be, like, learning woodworking or something more fun. It's just being forced to be stagnant just to live is annoying. Do what you love and the money will follow? No. High school counselor, pretty sure nobody is going to pay me to play video games and drink beer all day. Edit. Yes, I know about Twitch and streaming and whatnot. Sure, it's theoretically possible. Just like it's theoretically possible that I'll become an astronaut or a pro athlete or the butthole inspector for the Swedish bikini team. But it's not a realistic way to earn a living. I can work less hard for more money and then play video games and drink beer in my free time. Like seriously, what kind of question is this? Why would anyone want to work? People want to do something that gives them purpose, a sense of accomplishment, and the feeling that they're making a difference. If money wasn't an issue, would most people actually choose to participate in corporate BS, or deal with general public, or stand at a conveyor belt all day? I'd personally volunteer, enjoy hobbies and nature, travel, and take care of my family. I think most people want to be valid and useful members of their societies. What they don't want is to be ground down to nothing for their whole life. The people aren't the problem. Things I hate. 1. Having to wake up early. 2. Having to be somewhere I don't want to be. 3. Having to be around people I don't like. 4. Being away from home and my dog. 5. Using up all my energy and having none left for the things I enjoy. 6. Having to be polite to people who don't reciprocate the respect. 7. Not being able to freely eat or use the bathroom whenever I need. 8. Having to wear clothes I don't like. 9. Long commutes. Things required in most jobs. 1. See above. The loss of a personal life and control of your own time. The stress and demand now of being available 24/7 to your job, working to afford what you want, but never having time to enjoy it or being guilted by your job for trying to take a day off to enjoy. Even if you're paid 9-5, you know more than that is dedicated to work, getting ready, commuting, decompressing, OT, messages from work after 5 or on weekends, thinking about or prepping for the next day, and so on. The reward for the work put in isn't there anymore. We're tired, undervalued, and way overworked without much of an upside other than a roof and some probably unhealthy quick food. 7. Edit. Thanks for my first ever award.
Spending 80% of my life at a desk was awful. I found I was spending more time at work than with my husband. We struggled to make ends meet. I wasn't happy. So we shifted, sold the house, quit our careers and bought a trailer. And now travel and work only fun jobs for part of the year. Camp host, tour guide, help at fun events. We have money in the bank, tons of options, zero debt, and I've realized that our weird life is so much better. I would rather not work at all. But we need to eat and need fuel. There are so many other things to do and try other than work. Work takes up too much of your time. Your 2 days off get used doing laundry and groceries for the next week. It's not a life, you are living to work. I decided to try something different and I'm so glad we did. I want to do things I enjoy. Work takes me away from that. Edit. I have a fucking job, people. Just because I don't want to work doesn't mean I don't work. I don't have much choice if I don't want to be walking, homeless, and hungry.
People love to be useful and productive if they have autonomy and are in control of their own time. The modern workforce is so unnatural that it strips away much of what makes working fun. People aren't built to be robots, but workplaces often expect that you will behave like one. Where's the fun in that? Mind you, I do enjoy my job, but decades of spending 40+ hours on something is enough to make anything feel unenjoyable.
I want to work, in my garden, on my home, with my family, on crafts, but I don't want to work. I don't work in a field I care about, and the field I care about doesn't pay well enough. Workplace politics are annoying, and I don't like potlucks.
Does anyone really want to work? Do it 'cause we have to.
I want to work, but I only want work to be a small part of a very colorful and varied life. Instead, it's required to work 40 to 60 hours a week just to make ends meet. And at the end of it, have no energy left to enjoy what little time you have outside of work.
I don't think the problem is the work itself but low pay, terrible bosses, co-workers, way too long work hours, etc. Plus, I think our society has developed a very unhealthy relationship with work. It's not enough to go do your work and go home anymore. Work has to be the most important thing in your life. You have to define your identity by what kind of work you do. And God forbid you refuse to do extra work. For me, what gives my life meaning and brings me satisfaction is spending time with friends, is going for a walk, watching a movie, reading a good book, enjoying a meal with loved ones, and we have little time for those things anymore.
Better question. People who want to work, why? No normal person wants to work. We have to live. I'm on break from a shift of standing out in the rain. I don't want to do this shit. But I have no choice as I wouldn't be able to pay my bills next week if I so much as take a day off.
Dear non-asexual people, if you were in a relationship with someone and they sat you down and said they are asexual, what would your reaction be?
I'm pretty late to this, but this actually happened to me. My current partner told me about 3 to 4 years into our relationship that she realized she might be asexual. She told me that she'd realized since we'd been together that she'd often used sex as validation, or because she thought she was supposed to. She'd been coming to the realization for a long time before she told me, and told me she was afraid of how I'd react. I'll preface my reaction by saying that we have never been monogamous, so things may have worked out differently if we were. I was not totally surprised. We tell each other everything, and I'd heard a lot about our previous partners. From what I gathered, I was her first long-term partner who wasn't abusive, pushy, or worse. I didn't feel like I'd disappointed her or turned her asexual in some way. I knew that she was telling me this because she felt comfortable that I wouldn't freak out or leave her. When we'd first started seeing each other, I'd gone through a similar experience working up the courage to tell her I'm bi. The entire experience made us closer. That was years ago now, and we still very much love each other. We still have sex occasionally, but she's also fine if I seek it out elsewhere, as long as I'm safe, always, and communicative to a fault. Coming out to a partner is always difficult, regardless of what your sexuality is or isn't. It's scary to think the person you love may feel differently about you afterward, but it's better than living a lie and letting it eat away at you.
I've been on a date with an asexual guy. He told me 1 hour into the date. I had nothing but respect for straight up telling me. I said I want sex to be a part of a relationship. He respected my choice, and we had a great date. We were friends for long after that.
I consider myself asexual and probably have more sex than most people in a multi-year relationship. Partner has a high sex drive, but I don't really care for it myself. I very much enjoy pleasing her sexually. It's fun exploring their kinks and seeing them happy. Whereas in the past I've gone literally years with thinking about sex or masturbation. Obviously I'm not disgusted at the thought of sex as some people are, and don't really consider it a compromise I have to make in a relationship to work. It's just something that they enjoy and I enjoy aiding them in something they like doing. Like taking an interest in a partner's hobby, like board games, football, or something else, and just being there to see them having fun. Guess my point is that, like all sexualities, it's on a spectrum and is different for each person. Someone saying that they are asexual is just an entry point into having a more detailed conversation, which it sounds like you had.
This actually happened to me. He was so much fun that sex ultimately did not matter. We had 8 years together before he went in search of new adventures, but we stayed friends until his death. I still miss him.
Depends. If they're one of those asexuals who still likes sex but doesn't require it or pursue it, then I'd be a bit disappointed. But if it's of the sex-repulsed variety where there's no sex ever, I'd be inclined to pursue a relationship elsewhere, because I don't want to commit to a sexless lifestyle. Edit. Apparently I started the typical discourse with my phrasing, oof.
I have several asexual friends, and I know how much diversity there is under that label, so I'd ask them what that looks like for them, and how they feel about our relationship as it is, what needs to change, if anything, figure out if it makes sense to continue the relationship or maybe transition to a friendship. There are a lot of possibilities out there for open-minded people.
After 18 months of trying to compromise and making each other miserable, we ended our 9-year marriage and sold the house we had built together. She couldn't comprehend me being able to have a physical relationship extra to the marriage, because it would have to involve some feelings. And how could I do that and still love her? And I couldn't bear to put her through the ordeal of sex, or the betrayal of cheating. So, it ended our relationship. It doesn't have to be that way. I have great intimate snuggles with someone I don't have sex with, and great sex with people I care about but don't want to live with. I live alone and it works. Being happy is everything. Say what you want and what you can accommodate. Just don't give up what makes you tick because you are told you have to share your life with someone.
If you were dating someone and if they said they don't want to have sex with you until they are married to you, how would you react?
My current boyfriend was like this. He wanted to wait until marriage. If it were anyone else, I would have dipped TF out. But for some reason, with him, I told him I'm willing to wait. Then a month passed into our relationship, and he asked if we could have sex, because he kept getting too turned on when we would do other stuff. Now 2 years later, we have a healthy sex life and overall relationship lol.
I guess I would keep having sex with my wife instead. I once dated a girl who had been abused in a previous relationship and wanted to wait until marriage, or at least engagement before having sex. She needed the security of knowing she wasn't being used. The relationship didn't work out. We remain friends to this day, but not for that reason. I completely respected it, and although it wasn't right for us, I'm hopeful that she'll find the right person for her. Sex is important, but it isn't everything.
I wouldn't mind waiting as long as they needed, but I probably wouldn't get married to someone unless I knew we were also sexually compatible.
That was what my wife said to me. We would kiss and pet but not much more. I love her, and what is important to her is important to me. She decided she wanted to after she figured out that I was serious about her and our relationship. We had sex about a year into the relationship, and we got married 4 years into the relationship. Someone saying that they want to wait till marriage might simply mean that they want to be with the person they are going to be with for the long term. You should always respect a person's boundaries, and if their boundaries are not something you can respect, don't be with that person. It really is worth it, no matter who it is. And BTW, we have been together since the late 80s and have both had boundaries that we respected, but it has always been worth it, and I am glad to be her husband.
I would inquire about the reasoning, then act from there. I respect the choice, but I need to know the logic behind it, if I'm going to commit to someone.
I would tell her that I am the wrong man for her and wish her all the best for her future.
My friend did this. She waited until marriage for the sake of the man. It got to the wedding night and the guy froze. He actually turned his head away from his new wife in disgust when she undressed to get into the hot tub together. They did not have sex. They were divorced 4 weeks after the wedding. He didn't want to have sex. He actually said he thought she looked disgusting naked. She almost killed herself and was depressed for a long time. Sex is an important part of any relationship, and that situation taught me that I would never be with someone if they made me wait until after I was married. There is just too much risk.
Been there, done that, didn't have sex before marriage for religious reasons, found out after marriage we're on opposite sides of the sexual spectrum, difficult to get through, and even today 10+ years later it's still a struggle at times. Would 10/10 recommend you have sex before you commit to marriage to check your compatibility?
I'd stop dating her. 1. If she stays true to it, then it's way too much of a risk for me. Lifelong sexual incompatibility sounds like a nightmare. 2. She seems to have some ideas surrounding sex that I very much disagree with, which is a sign for incompatibility as well. 3. If it was just a test, then I dodged a bullet. I'm not interested in someone who does bullshit like tests.